mama, I'm off to Yokohama just to teach all those Japs. The Yanks are no saps. A million flights through sons of Uncle Sam and you please. We'll soon have all those Japs right down on their Japanese. So goodbye, mama, I'm off to Yokohama for my country.
Knock, knock, it's America, bitch. I love this fucking gun so much. This is so fucking dirty.
I take it you're having a good time down there.
Dude, the monitor is so good here. Everything is just close quarters wood huts, dude. It's 20 rounds of full auto 30-06. What could go wrong? Turns out, not much.
Welcome back. So today we are going to be discussing the Colt Monitor Squad. They are a premium squad for the Americans at BR3. So they're the 112th Infantry Regiment of the 28th Infantry Division. Per their description, they were formed in 1878 and took part in the Spanish-American War, World War I, and were again called to active federal service on the 17th of February of 1941. And they were sent to participate in the Normandy landings. They have +7 vitality, +3 weapons handling, and -1 mobility, and their main draw is the Colt Monitor. So, I'm sure you heard in the opening, that was the clip from the beginning of the merge, when we first got to play around with all of our fun toys in new theaters. That was my buddy Stubbs, and he absolutely loves the Monitor. And you know what? He's right. The Monitor is a fantastic gun. It is filthy. So, we are going to be looking at the Colt Monitor, and we'll be comparing it to the 60th Infantry Regiment Premium Squad with the Browning 1918, and to the Tech Tree M1918A2. So, with the Colt Monitor Squad, you're getting 1 engineer, 4 machine gunners, and all 5 members have their very own Colt Monitor. It's classified as a light machine gun, and that does mean that their engineer can in fact build the heavy machine gun position. Now, let's look at the Colt Monitor itself. It is a BR3 light machine gun. Its description says that it's a police version of the Browning 1918 with a pistol grip and an effective muzzle brake. It shoots 7.62 caliber with a hit power of 13.2 at 10 meters and 11.9 at 100 meters. It shoots at 660 rounds a minute with a reload time of 2.1 seconds, vertical of 36, horizontal of 12, 20 round magazine, weighs 6 kilos, and it fires in auto and semi-auto. Also, just from my own experience using it, it has very nice sights. It has an aperture at the back, kind of like what you'd find in an M1 Garand, and at the front it has a hooded sight, so it's very easy to acquire targets with it. So, a lot of what we've discussed in my recent 2 videos about the DP squad and about the MG42 early carry over to the Colt Monitor. It is a machine gun squad, so it does get a lot of value, and it doesn't fall off as hard as some other squads, but as opposed to those two where they're both traditional machine guns, there is a little bit of a caveat here. I still believe that that's true with this squad because they can build the heavy machine gun, but even though this squad is classified as a machine gun squad, I think it feels a lot more like an assault squad. That being said, the Colt Monitor performs less like a traditional light machine gun and less like a submachine gun and much more like an assault rifle, which makes a lot of sense. The bar is literally the Browning automatic rifle. It is an automatic rifle, not a light machine gun. Obviously, it got used like a light machine gun and in a squad supporting role in real life, but in-game, even though it's heavier and it's more cumbersome, it performs basically like a battle rifle. Like, if you compare it to a modern shooter, it's the equivalent of your FAL. It's just a heavier assault rifle. It's going to have more recoil, but it's also going to have more ability to reach out, touch your enemy, and put them down. And because of that, in a game like Enlisted, it is an excellent weapon and extremely versatile. So, if you need to clear buildings, you throw this thing on full auto, you hip fire it, clear the whole room. You might have to duck into a corner here or there and reload. You might have to switch between your fellas a few times because your low ammo count might bite you in the ass. But it is fantastic for assaulting positions. The Browning automatic rifle, and by proxy the Colt Monitor, are probably amongst the best light machine guns in the game. Again, it's not really a light machine gun, but the game classifies it as a light machine gun for pushing and assaulting positions. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use it to defend, but you're going to be more mobile, and you'll be able to play more aggressively with a Colt Monitor or a bar than just about any other machine gun in the game. The RD-44 does a similar role very well, but it's BR5 and it's Soviet. And the DPs, like the DP-28 and the DT-27, 29, whatever, the BR-3 and 4 light machine guns for Russia, they also kind of fall into a similar role, where you can be very aggressive with them, and their weight's low enough that you're still relatively mobile, but they do have the benefit of having more ammo capacity. But looking specifically at America, the gold standard of, and honestly the fantasy of playing America in this game is fully realized with the bar and with the Colt Monitor. Like, when I think I'm gonna play America, the things that I think of are the Thompson, the bar, the M1 Garand, the M2 flamethrower, the Sherman, and like the P47, right? When you get to BR3's America, and you get the ability to use the Colt Monitor or to use the bar, it is by far one of the best experiences you can have in the game. It's just peak Freeaboo fantasy. It is so much fun. It feels so good. And the thing is, this used to be a Normandy gun, and it's at BR3, so it actually plays up really, really well, despite being BR3. But that's true for all of the bars. But it's especially true with the Colt Monitor. So, if we look at some of the other bar options, the main competitor to this squad, as far as premium squads go, is the 60th Infantry Regiment of the 9th Infantry Division, and they come with Browning 1918 bars, and admittedly, they've been around longer. They're a legacy premium squad, and truth be told, they're just not as good. If you ever have to choose between the Colt Monitors and the 1918s, it's not even a competition. The Colt Monitor wins up and down the street every day of the week, sun up to sundown. But what you're getting with the 60th Infantry Regiment is 4 machine gunners and an engineer. Sounds familiar, right? You're getting the Browning 1918, which is worse than the Colt Monitor, but we'll get into its stats in a moment. But the key difference is that you are not getting a premium engineer, and he does not get his own bar. So, if you're playing up, you can give him an M2, and he'll perform respectably. If you're playing down, maybe an M1 Garand, which, it's a good gun, but it's not a bar. Now, The rifle itself is Browning M1918, which you can already get in the tech tree, which also kind of hurts the value of this particular squad. But I was using it when I was playing as a stand-in for both the tech tree 1918 and for this premium squad, kind of knock out two birds with one stone. And so what you're getting, 660 rounds a minute, fire rate, okay, that's about the same. 2.1 seconds of reload, alright, that's about the same. 13.2 damage, alright, that's about the same. But the reload, or not the reload, the recoil's worse. With 41 vertical and 15 horizontal. Now, admittedly, that is very similar to what you're getting with the Colt Monitor. The Colt Monitor being 36 and 12. But the combination of having better recoil and getting a fifth member using a machine gun, and, you know, all the benefits of being a premium engineer, like all the extra things that you can build, is enough that I don't think that it's even a competition. Also, the 1918 is heavier at 7.2 kilos, so it's 1.2 heavier, but that's not a huge deal. For the most part, they do play very similarly, and I often will run both of them on a lineup because they do complement each other quite nicely. They both effectively have the same playstyle. Now, if this was a tech tree machine gun squad, then it would only be 3 machine gunners, but you'd be getting an extra rifleman, you'd still be getting the engineer, and you'd be getting 2 specialist slots, so you might take 2 engineers, and you might take an AT soldier, you might take a radio operator and a sniper. It's up to you. So that caveat that's true with every machine gun squad versus every premium machine gun squad still holds true here. But as far as the gun is concerned and having that extra engineer, I just don't even think it's a competition. I think the Colt Monitor is just that much better, even though the stats aren't a massive difference. Now, if we look at the Tech Tree 1918 A2 by comparison, now I don't have these fully upgraded, so, you know, we'll have to guesstimate a little bit, but it fires the same bullet, so same damage. It has the same fire rate. The reload time is 2.3, but it should lower down to about the same, close to 2 seconds. Now, what it does have is 34 horizontal and 15 vertical. Those are going to get reduced, though, with shot deviation, I believe. They may not actually go down, but your shot deviation will make it feel a little bit better when you get the new barrel upgrade. So, 3415 is also very close, but you're getting 3 more horizontal recoil, which isn't a deal breaker. It's not enough to say that the Colt Monitor is just leaps and bounds the best gun ever. Like, it's another gun similar to the 1918 where the stats are very close. You could use them interchangeably. You wouldn't really suffer a whole lot for it. And it does have better vertical, but I don't care about vertical recoil. Vertical recoil can be managed by player skill and simply moving your thumbstick or your mouse down a little bit while you're shooting. Horizontal, on the other hand, cannot be. And even though it's only 3 points of horizontal recoil, I still think that it feels better using the Colt Monitor. But that's just me. Now, the big advantage that you might find with the 1918 A2 is that it has auto slow. And I don't really have a strong preference for semi-auto or auto slow. People that I've talked to in the past have told me that auto slow is this fantastic thing that you absolutely need, and it's better in every way than semi-auto. I don't agree. I feel like I can just tap fire on semi-auto and get the same experience, but to each his own. So if that's something that you care about, there's that. The only other drawback to the 1918 A2 is that it's heavier. It's 8.8 kilos. The Monitor, by comparison, is only 6 kilos, so it is going to be a little bit lighter. and you're going to be slightly more mobile with it. Now, moving on from the A2 and the Monitor, I also want to take a look at the War. The War's the Battle Pass gun that it's the WAR versus the BAR, Winchester Automatic to Browning Automatic. Kind of fills the same role. Now, the War has 29 vertical, 14 horizontal, so it is better. It's 2.4 for its reload time, though, which is a little bit worse, but it's not a major drawback. It shoots at 640 rounds a minute, so very slightly slower, and it's full auto and semi-auto, so no auto slow, 7.2 kilos. Now, my experience with the War is that it has more visual recoil, but if you can get past the visual feedback that you get and understand that the gun itself is probably performing better than it looks like, it's a very strong competitor. Now, the thing with the War, though, is that it is a Battle Pass weapon, so you're going to have to spend gold orders or gold on them. They go on normal squads, so you're not going to get premium bonuses with them. It is, however, BR3, and it is very competitive. And I think it looks cool. It looks like a giant M1 carbine, in my opinion. So it is a viable alternative, and I think it competes strongly. But that's kind of the thing with BR3 American LMGs. They're all very competitive, and they're all very close in comparison to each other. And because of that, you can make a compelling argument that the Colt Monitor squad is more like an assault squad. And if it's more like an assault squad, it may not have the same value that a machine gun squad traditionally would. However, I disagree with that, and it's primarily because of its versatility being essentially a battle rifle. Like, if you've played other games, it's going to be like the FAL in a more modern game, where you can reach out and you can touch people with it, it maintains its damage, but it's going to have more recoil. So, if you want to clear a bunker, you can walk in, you can hip fire, duck into cover, pop out, shoot them, clear the bunker, no problem. You do have kind of a low ammo count though, so it's something that you have to be aware of. But, unlike a lot of the other weapons, you can also throw it on semi-auto, and you can reach out and touch people, and it's like using a semi-auto rifle. Which, that kind of gets us into tactics with it. With a lot of the other machine guns that we've looked at, like the belt-fed DP and the MG42 early, they're very good at a sedentary playstyle where you find a position, you plop yourself down, and you shoot. They do alright when you're assaulting things, because you can push forward, hip fire a little bit, but they're pretty heavy, and they're kind of bulky, and they're kind of slow. The Colt Monitor, by comparison, it's kind of like having an M1 Garand with a 20-round magazine. So let's say you start on Normandy, and you're down on the beach, and you need to push up. The whole map's uphill, there's a lot of long-range areas, there's a lot of close-range areas, but you need to move through those long-range areas to get to the close-range areas. You can throw the Colt Monitor on semi-auto, and you can pick off your Germans at range, and shoot a little bit, move up, shoot a little bit, move up, and eventually, once you get to the bunkers, you can throw it in full auto, jump into the bunker, and do exactly what I talked about before, where you've got 20 rounds, hip fire it, clear the hallway, duck into cover before you move through the next door, reload, so on and so forth. So it makes it a very versatile weapon, and it makes it very good when you're attacking. But the thing is, because it's a machine gun squad, when you are on the defensive, you can make prepared positions really quickly and really effectively. So you can sit there and you can put down, say, an ammo box, a heavy machine gun, some sandbags, some barbed wire, some tank traps, and you can do this all in like a minute or two. And you can have your own little fortified position where you can fight from. And at the end of the day, you have what's at range, like let's say you're fighting on Ardennes and there's a lot of long-ranged areas there. You can throw it on semi-auto and you basically have a 20-round M1 Garand, and you can pop the Germans when they're coming across the fields or coming up the hills without an issue. So, I think it performs very well. Now, if we're going to compare it to other premium squads that are available for America, it only really has two competitors that are infantry. Now, number one is going to be the rank 5 paratroopers. Now, there's the caveat that if you're going to pick up these paratroopers, they're only at rank 5, so as long as you're comfortable playing up to rank 5, they're an option. And if they are an option, they are probably the better choice because they come with all the benefits that a paratrooper has, and that they can show up anywhere on the map, be on the ground and fighting within like 20 seconds, and they have their box where they can get bars out of their box. And like we established, the bar is worse than the monitor, but it's not so significantly worse that it's going to radically change the way that you play the game. But I would say the paratroopers are still the top tier number one choice. Now, number two I think is the Colt monitor, but number three, and a strong competitor at BR3, is the Turner SMLE radio squad. Now, because they're radio operators, I think that they're lower value, but there is of course the caveat that being radio operators, they come with their second primary slot available right off the bat, so they can also play up really well by giving them M2 carbines. And so then they have their SMLE for longer ranged engagements, and they have their carbine for assaulting positions. They're an option. Arguably they're a side grade. I still think the monitor is better. Now, the monitor itself, being at BR3, I think is in a really good spot. Because if you play up, I think you play up very well, because you can reach out and touch enemies better than, say, an M2 carbine can, because you have the damage, give or take, of a Garand, and you have more than double the ammo capacity of a Garand. Likewise, if you're on full auto, you have a higher damage round, and you have a lower magazine, so it kind of gives you a little bit of parity there. And then if you play down, you're just a nightmare for whoever you run into. The closest gun I can think of that has a similar role in this game is probably the FG-42, where it's 20 round magazine, it's got semi-auto rifle damage. The only difference is that the FG-42 goes on rifleman, and so you can understand why it's a BR5 weapon, because you can put it on practically everybody, whereas being a light machine gun, these are far more limited on who you can put them on, so it's more acceptable for it to be BR3, for example. That, and, like, historically speaking, they've been around since the First World War in one form or another. Now, talking about how they are outfitted for me, all of my guys have Colt 1911s, although if you want a cheaper pistol alternative, I think the Colt New Service is an excellent choice. I just personally picked up these a while back when they were in Normandy, and I also got a bunch of extra Colts when they were only one silver order in the Pacific. But moving on from there, the engineer has a shovel, as all engineers should, but everybody else just has their normal knife. And then I left them all with the large backpacks. Now, the large backpack gives them access to 4 inventory slots. I have those filled with med packs. They come with it by default, and they come with 3 med packs. With some of the other machine guns that we've discussed recently, like the DP and the MG42, they, being more medium-ish machine guns, go through their ammo much more than, say, a Colt Monitor does. And they're also 50 to 100 round belts, depending on which one we're talking about, and they don't really have a whole lot of reloads by comparison. The Colt Monitor has 100 rounds, but it's separated into 5 reloads. So the way that I usually play them is the first 60 to 80 rounds, I don't mind just blowing through, and then the last 20 to 40 rounds, I'll throw it on semi-auto and treat it like it's a giant M1 Garand, and you only need like 2 rounds to kill a guy. So as long as you pace yourself when you're lowish on ammo, I think it performs just fine. You could make an argument for large ammo bags, but I feel like they gain more by being able to heal themselves repeatedly than they do from the extra ammo. Now, moving on from there, they all have AP mines. You could use alternatives there. You could throw in an AT mine or a TNT charge. It's really user preference. And then I gave them all flasks, and I skipped out on binoculars. They all came with explosive packs, and they all kept them. That just gives them a little bit of anti-tank potential. Now, moving on from there, let's look at their perks. So, they come standard with 15 mobility, 23 vitality, and 19 weapon handling. I have not reset their perks yet, so mine have a good perk layout. They're able to skip a lot of the tier 1 perks. So what my guys have going from left to right in mobility, they have 3 points in medpack usage speed, 2 points in run speed. They have their starting perk and vitality for 100% health restored by medpack. They have stamina regeneration speed. Then they have aim stability after receiving damage and health restored by medpack. And then they have vitality. And then in weapon handling, they have weapon changing speed, 4 points in vertical recoil, 1 point in downstate, and 1 point in firearm reload speed. Now, the thing is, if you were to reset your perks, you're going to have to put more points into tier 1 perks, which if it were me, I'd just throw a bunch of the vitality stuff in there, because outside of vitality itself, the perk, I don't think a whole lot in the vitality tree really makes a difference. You could pick up horizontal recoil, I just don't really think that it's worth picking up horizontal recoil when this only has 12 horizontal recoil. Likewise, vertical recoil isn't really doing a ton for you, it really is just quality of life. You could definitely make an argument for putting another point into firearm reload speed, although 2.1 seconds as it is not particularly long. But other than that, I do like having the vertical recoil, so I would stick with what they come with by default and just upgrade off of that. As far as I'm concerned, they're an awesome squad to have as the Americans. They perform excellently when you're fighting into the Japanese. A lot of the terrain out there, while being kind of rough, is covered in buildings that are incredibly thin-skinned, so you can shoot through a lot of those. When you're fighting in Europe, I think they do just fine as well. I mean, obviously you don't have the benefit of blowing through all the buildings, but they perform well in a variety of positions, whether you're fighting over longer ranges or you're fighting over shorter ranges. I think that they do perfectly well. And I think that they're resistant to playing up, which I think is the most important thing for a rank 3 premium squad. They are able to go into rank 5 matches and feel right at home, which may not come as a surprise. They are originally a Normandy squad, and because of that, it makes sense. They're used to fighting against things like FG-42s and MG-42s, but they do perform very nicely. On top of that, I think they look pretty cool. They have these bandoliers that cross their chests, so they have kind of a unique appearance. It's not the most unique appearance, mind you. They still look like GIs, but I think they're pretty cool. So they get my seal of approval. Admittedly, they're not the biggest increase over your tech tree power, but I think that they bring enough to the table that if you're looking for a premium squad, they're worth looking at. If the Americans get, say, a half-track, it probably will bring more to the table than what they do, just because you have more versatility and specialists in the squad. And admittedly, the paratroopers also bring more to the table. But given the limited options that are in the American tech tree at the moment for infantry-based premium squads, I think that they're in the competition for the top 2. If you're not wanting to pick up a BR5 squad, then I think they're really the clear choice. So, let me know down below if you have them, what you think of them. I think post-merge, they've been awesome. They've been able to go to a lot of different places and really tear up the environment and destroy their enemies, which is nice. If you don't have them, and you don't have them because you think the bars in the tech tree do their job just fine, let me know. Let me know which of all of the bar family and the war you think is the best. I like the Colt Monitor. It's got lightweight, it's got good recoil. I also like the war, but in general, I think I prefer the Colt Monitor. I think it feels better than the war, and I think a lot of it comes down to visual recoil. As per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games.